Hello, Year 9. Welcome to our first pre-recorded lesson. I'm looking forward to meeting with you properly on Monday. Today I'm going to follow on our theme of typology. The type of type is what I've titled today's task, looking for commonalities and connections. There will be so many things that we could find even just in our own homes that we could create or reproduce as typologies. You can see even on the screen just now something as simple as the humble ring pull from a can. If we think about all the things that we use and perhaps even discard on a daily basis in our lives, we could gather many of those types of things and of course put them together into the grid format to create our first typology. So really this is about looking for connections between objects. Connections also that might not always necessarily be about the objects themselves, but even simply about the shapes or the colours of things. So I'm going to introduce a new photographer now. His name is Steve Tyler. I don't want you to get him confused with the Steve Tyler that inevitably will pop up when you type his name into Google. So there is a Steve Tyler who's the lead singer of Aerosmith. That is not who we're looking at. We're looking at Steve Tyler, who is a photography graduate living and working, I think, in Oxfordshire somewhere. His own website, his photography website, is full of these kinds of explorations of quite consumeristic typology. So this one, for example, is of receipts. The first page I showed you of the ring pulls, that's also one of his. The idea really being that there are a lot of things, again, that we discard, as I said, things that we have maybe in abundance that we think are pointless or useless. Gathering them into a typology setting somehow elevates them. I don't know if you can see that or if you agree with that. Of course, all of this is up to you in terms of how you interpret this as an idea. Don't forget, I'm saying that these objects, however simple, however banal, can suddenly seem much more important because of the sheer numbers of them that we see within the grid format. But if you don't think that, it doesn't mean don't do it. It just means please do these things, look at these things, study these things, and form an opinion about them. So task 1 is for you to study the work of Steve Tyler. And I want you to create a slide in your PowerPoint. So you've already got your PowerPoint up and running. I've seen lots of them already coming in, which have been excellent. Where we're just going to continue that PowerPoint for the time being. So the one where you've already put your title of type and typology. I think for many of you this will be slide 3 or 4. I'd like you in the first instance to have an example of his work, of Steve Tyler's work, and I want you to compare what he does to the work of Bernd and Hilla Becker. So you've already had a look at what they do. You've seen, for example, their extraordinary collections of water towers and other industrial buildings. In the comparison of these things, it is important, I think, that you look at the kinds of objects that are being photographed and collected, and consider why these particular items are the things that have caught the attention of the artists. I want you to always, of course, use technical vocabulary. I want you to analyse the visual elements, and again, some of you have already been excellent at this when you were analysing the Becker's work, talking about, for example, composition, placement within the frame, the size of the object within the frame, talking very much, of course, about those commonalities and collections. And then that really leads me into task 2, which I hope you'll find fun, which is to create a typology grid of a minimum of 9 images at home. So you can choose any item of any type, though you must follow the conventions of typology. So the conventions of typology are, of course, that the things you photograph and put into that grid format must somehow have commonality. They must be similar. They don't have to be identical. So if we look at the donuts on the screen just now, we can see that they're all donuts, but they're all different flavours. The type is the donut, and then the thing that we are drawn to, perhaps, in the grid is the fact that we have some that are covered in icing, we have some that are covered in hundreds and thousands, we have some that are covered in, I think, it's obviously a jam donut. We've got donuts that have got sprinkles and custard and all different things. Again, some of you noticed this in the Becker's work, is that although they were looking at, let's say, the grain stores, that each grain store at first appears to be the same, but actually, of course, they all have these differences. So isn't it funny that in looking at things that all have similarities, we also can so carefully draw out and see the differences? That's really what I want you to do. And for stretch and challenge, let's see if you can go beyond the grid of 9. Let's see if you can produce 16. Let's see if you could produce more than what I'm asking for. And I think that might be easy if you are actually looking at objects. Again, this idea that we discard. Think how many bottle tops you may have unscrewed in the last week. Think how many receipts your mum might have kind of screwed up in the bottom of her handbag. Think about how many times you have used a knife and fork this week. Think how many meals you've eaten off of a circular plate. So I will be really interested to see what you produce for this. As I said, I'm really looking forward to being with you for a live lesson on Monday morning. And I really am letting you have a lot of freedom with this in terms of the objects you select. So, Year 9, good luck. I will see you on Monday. Let's see what you produce.